way they can generate output. And we're going to soon launch our industry offerings. But before that, I would like to hand it over to Mr. Kishore Jayaraman for his keynote on what being digital means from his business. Over to you, Mr. Kishore.
Okay, thank you, Vivek. Good morning, everyone. I want to thank NASSCOM, Vivek, and my fellow panelists for giving me this opportunity to speak to you all. And to me, when I look at digital, when I look at manufacturing, when I look at these spaces, things that come to my mind are that the computing power has increased, the storage capabilities have increased globally, and it was but an obvious progression for us to move into more and more of digital environments in our everyday life. A testament to that is the fact that we are going digital and we are having this webinar with each other. And as the storage capabilities increased, as the computing powers increased, and we have been able to say that now, how do we do more of predictive maintenance? That was one thing that came about, but also to look at the data more closely. Data became the new oil. And like there was a transformation in the past when oil came about and automobile industry just took off and the whole world evolved. When data became available, I think the whole world started evolving. And in terms of manufacturing, then we started looking at how does all this apply to manufacturing. And in the entire digital space, the physical space starts to blur. And there is a combination, an intersection between the digital and the physical spaces that kind of make machines, make the operations environment much more accessible and much more predictable using digital tools and techniques. And adoption of these techniques is never easy. Adoption of these techniques are going to take time. But that is a little bit later conversation that I will have during this presentation. So connected systems is the way that the manufacturing environment gets to be more automated. So when you look at industry 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and now 4.0, you will see that in today's world, we are adapting more and more digital techniques. In our Rolls-Royce world, I'll talk a little bit more about that. We are looking at the manufacturing environment. And we say, how is it for us to manufacture an aircraft blade? Sometimes you do single crystal that kind of takes it all the way into the full blade so that there is no interstitial cracks. There is no development of fatigue or creep that can happen in the interstitial spaces. So this has been a highest level of automation that one can expect when we manufacture the blades. And each and every component that we manufacture in the aerospace industry has that level of complexity. But now the next level for us has been where we take the data that comes up. There's about a petabyte of data that is generated when we do each blade manufacturing. And that petabyte of data we didn't know or could not assimilate because there was no computing power or there was no storage capabilities. Now that we have both of these, we take this data and apply it and look at what is right, what is wrong, what could be better in order to predict our manufacturing processes every step of the way. And next thing is to look at what can we do in terms of connecting the systems together. So in our production line, there are, let's say, 5 machines. Machine number 1 is making a part and it's all automated. And so machine number part can communicate to 2 saying this part will be ready at this particular time. And 3 can pass the message, 2 can pass the message on to 3, 4, 5. So these kinds of systems we think about, we are talking about, but to implement in real life while you're also in the middle of production sort of challenges and timelines or deadlines, so it becomes very hard to figure out how to get it in there. But every day we think about it. But more importantly, in the world of manufacturing, in the services industry. So we need to take the same data and we need to figure out how can we do predictive maintenance and preventive maintenance more with our engines that come into our repairs and services shop. How can we predict the services time, when the engine will come, how it will happen? There's a lot of connections that happens between supply chains, between logistics providers, and between our manufacturing or our MRO shops. So these are all being evolved on a daily basis. We learn as we go forward. There is no such thing as we have reached the end of the journey. We are perfect in this. We are all at the beginning of this journey. But what is very important to understand is that it is a journey that has begun. The train has left the station. And I think we, as different manufacturing companies, have to start thinking about how do we catch this train and stay on the train. Now, having said that, in real life, what does it mean? As we provide more and more data, it means capital investments. It means that you got to take your operations that you're fine-tuned and you've done something that is very good for the current times. You start thinking about it and you say, what is it I need to do more so that I get more productivity out of my machines? How do I get more productivity out of my entire operations? And so this constant conversation between the finance teams, between the planning teams, between the operations teams, and kind of coming up with how do we move things forward constantly is the name of the game. But while we implement all these things, so artificial intelligence is a buzzing word today. You know, deep learning, machine learning, these are all terms that I use on a daily basis. And if anybody wants to have a conversation about these topics in a forum like this, you will see there'll be 50 people who will talk about these topics. But what does it really mean to us? What does it really mean in our real life? Right? And also, when we are developing these systems, what does it mean? There's got to be governance. There's got to be ethical practices. We need to think about those as we look into saying, I'm going to implement artificial intelligence. And you can see how nascent the technologies are, because if artificial intelligence was a mature world, we would not be sitting here on digital forums. You'd be in the physical world because we would have solved the COVID problem. The fact we could not solve the COVID problem with human intelligence, nor with artificial intelligence, tells me we don't know where we are in artificial intelligence. Right? We can give 1,001 excuses. Now take that as literally an example, but then take it and apply it to manufacturing, and you will see that it is similar, and you will see all these challenges that come up. But what is very critical when we get into having machines that think is, how do we govern them? Governance has to be front and center. Are we following ethical practices when we do these things? Because it becomes extremely important to make sure that there is a proper governance model, proper ethical practices as we go forward. So Rolls-Royce recently launched our AI ethics kind of a paradigm, if you want to call it for a better term, so that we can think about these things as we evolve into the digital world. And I think the evolution of the digital world, companies have to think very carefully. There's a return on investment, which is capital investment that you're going to do. It's easy to say, I don't need to do this, right? It's easy to say, I absolutely need this, because we really don't know how deep we want to go. But the basics are all there, and a lot of companies have automated themselves today. But we also need to look at it and talk about skills and people. Because if we are going to get into this new world and we're going to transform our operations, then I think we need to think about the people. How do we upskill people? One of the interesting topics that I've recently heard about is that training of the existing employees, then the focus on that is as important as it is to create the skills that is required for tomorrow's world. What we all forget in the whole scheme of things is that how much our employees are trained and how much our employees are going to be that much better in evolving into the new world. So I think training is going to be a very critical thing. And I think the next big thing we need to think about, apart from training, is how do people interact with the machines? As I said before, the digital and physical spaces are blurring. What is the role of people and how will they interact with these things, and what will be the knowledge that they need to generate and skills that they need to generate? So we need to constantly think about these factors as we move into the new digital manufacturing environments. Last but not the least, and I want to put India in perspective, we have 1.3 billion people. Jobs are front and center. And there's always this fear that is out there in the industry that, when we get into the digital world, we're going to all lose jobs, right? But that's what people said about automating, automobile facilities. And my colleague here, Naved, can probably speak more to that about automation and how that has not impacted jobs. In fact, it has created more productivities. It has created more, more jobs than one ever thought about. And I think that is the world we are living in, where even digital is going to have the same impact and the same effect. And so to me, digital in manufacturing is but an absolutely essential thing. Just like smartphones are essential to us in our everyday lives, computers are essential to us in our everyday work life and in our personal life. And I think the new world is going to be about all this. But what pace do we go in there? With the 1.3 billion people, I said, we need to pace ourselves so that people are also provided jobs, skills are also there, and productivities are generated and digital tools and techniques are embraced, it is a pot that has got all the masala that we can think of from an Indian perspective. Now the question is, which one takes a higher tone? Depends on the operation, it depends on the environment. And I believe, we can make a balance between the whole digital world, the physical world, jobs, skills. We believe it can all happen. I would like to conclude by saying a quote from John F. Kennedy, right? Power to change is the power to grow, right? Absolutely the truth. And change is but necessary in life. And people who do not, our companies, organizations do not change and live in the past or the present will completely miss the bus in the future. But what people should never forget, and I think companies should never forget, is change for the sake of change will disrupt everything. And we will eventually end up landing up in a more unproductive situation than the productivity that we expected out of the change. So it has to be a very well thought out strategy. Every strategy is going to be different for every organization. Automation is there in different organizations in different ways, but how do you make the automation more productive now is where the digital environment comes in. How we implement digital into that, and how do we make automation more productive? How do we make skills better is going to be the new world we live in. And it's a very exciting new world. We are looking forward to it at Rolls-Royce. And I personally learn so many things every day. And I would say that my journey into the digital world started about probably 2 years back, 3 years back, when Rolls-Royce decided digital is first for our company. I'll stop right there. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'll give the forum back to you, Vivek, and to take it forward from there.
Thank you very much, Kishore. I think precisely a bird's eye view, whatever should I say, right? You have really hit the nail at the right point. Ultimately, the digital adoption should mean, and it should have a relevance in terms of a return on investment. And I have been speaking to all the panelists before we started this broadcast, and of course 3 to 4 days back as well. I think there are two lenses. One lens you talked about from the adopter side, and then there is digital adoption from the provider side. And probably these two are today not in sync, right? What we provide as technology can be very useful, and it is useful, but where does it become relevant at each bit of the value chain, whether it is supply chain, whether it is procurement, whether it is distribution or logistics? I think that's very, very key, right? And that's where today, when we are, I would say we are still in the COVID times. We're going to hit an anniversary of COVID now, very soon. So we are still struggling, and I think we have realized, and we have done a lot of research in the industry, both for large and medium enterprises. People are more worried, more cautious about digitalization today with the right ROI, with a more meaningful ROI than what they used to do it before, right? So I think the adoption group, whether it is a large industry or tier 2 or tier 3 supplier or tier 1 supplier, and also the ancillaries, it is very important to kind of get the right relevant value chain to be applied, or where the digital should be applied. So with that, what I would do is jointly we will move on, Kishore, in terms of launching our industry digital offerings. So here is it. I hope you all can see the screen. So we are hitting the button jointly, Kishore here, and this is where we go. You just say go, and I'll go.
Go.
Here. So we are here to launch NASSCOM Center for Excellence Industry Digital Offerings. These are 10 different offerings, which is based upon all the industry challenges which we have seen till now. right? We have researched around 500 to 600 large and small and medium industries to see across each of these fins where the challenges are, and all the circles which you see are the impact areas where we are going to bring solutions, whether it's startups, large organizations, integrators, the whole ecosystem, right? We are here to bring it, and of course, for you all to give a glimpse of where some of these industry offerings can result into an ROI. And this is very indicative. Kishore will really appreciate, and then of course, I will let him speak his final words before he gets on to other busy aspects of his life. So here is it, Kishore, probably just a hint of what you have been speaking. These are industry ranges coming from a lot of research institutes and organizations. The real benefit, it is in the range, and this is coming directly from the industry, how they have really reaped it. Maybe last words from you, Kishore, and then of course I will let you go because you have a busy day.
Yeah, no, thank you, Vivek. I think when I look at this, the first thing that strikes me is they put safety like five slots down. I think this particular chart has to be prioritized. And I think it'll be very, very nice to see safety right at the top because it shows in the digital world that we care still about people. And so inside Rolls-Royce, we do a lot of things, and all our meetings are started with safety. All our meetings are sort of continued through safety. And when we evaluate what we do, I think safety is very important. I understand it's a digital forum, but to put the focus on safety, it might be right at the top. So maybe you want to think about it. That's my only 2 cents contribution on this one. But at the end of the day, all the points mentioned here, asset maintenance, production, inventory, quality, safety, energy, and after sales are just perfect. And I think this list will only grow, but I think the list is absolutely perfect. And I think it kind of indicates, it's definitely an indication to what we do within our organization as well. And so, thank you.
Perfect. Perfect, Kishore. And thanks a lot, Kishore, for your presence here and giving us the direction of the adoption to ROI. I think we will take that pattern, and surely safety has to be almost, I think, in workplace compliance and safety becoming a new norm right now. We surely will give more importance, and that's very nice.
It's not